Before we get into this, I just wanted to say that this channel exists because of parents like you. And if you're finding these conversations helpful, subscribing really does make a difference. It helps us keep going and bringing voices into the community. So thank you for being here because it really does mean a lot. Enjoy the video. Welcome to Helen and Jenny. Jenny and Helen are both home educators in the UK. Could you both tell us about yourselves? How long have you been home educating? How many children and what are their ages?
Thanks for having us to start with. Yeah, I live in Norfolk in the UK by the sea. I have 7 children. Our eldest, they've all graduated actually from homeschooling. Our eldest is going to be 30 this year. We have 7 grandchildren as well. 2 of them are married. And yeah, we've homeschooled pretty much all through. Our eldest was in school for like primary one and just primary one, I think it was. And then we started homeschooling after that. And we're on our last leg. We have twins at the end. They're 17 and they're just finishing. This is their last term. Like hopefully the next month or so they should be finished off. So it's been quite a long journey. I don't know
Wow.
how many years. Is it? We did count. I can't even remember how many years that is. 2024, I want to say. Um,
Wow. Do you
so
think
yeah.
it's changed over the years how you've done it?
I don't know. I'll change it in the fact that I'm much more relaxed than I was in the beginning. What we've actually done, I don't
Feel more
know.
confident.
We've followed the same kind of program. We follow an American curriculum, and we've done all that all the way through. But definitely, my attitudes changed probably all the way along. But yeah, Helen has a similar story to me, which is funny.
Yeah, so I've got same 7 kids, and
Wow.
similar ages. My last one is 18, and he's just gotten his last couple of months of school. He'll be done. My eldest is 30. So yeah, just homeschooled. My eldest 3 went to school for a little bit. So I think my eldest was like 8 or something when he came out of school. So yeah, we've just been same thing really. Just did a high school diploma. Uh, and yeah, I think that I remember listening to I know podcast or something. I don't know what it was then years ago, and it was saying that so I think when I started off, it was like, oh my goodness, I had like a workbook, and I had to do every single question that was in the workbook, and it was like that was the workbook, and oh my goodness, like it was like so stressful if we didn't do every question in the workbook. And yeah, like Jenny, I just don't really think that anymore. I think like it doesn't really matter if you miss out a bit of the workbook or like like
Yeah.
probably don't even do a workbook anymore. So.
You're experts. And can I ask why you chose the high school diploma?
I think we were, I think we looked at GC. I was a teacher. I wasn't, schools weren't awful, but, wasn't a huge fan of schools. Wasn't a huge fan of GCSEs, or A-levels, had taught those. And I suppose looking for something else, we were sort of, same as Jenny, we were living in the sort of international community, and there were people there that were doing this high school diploma. And I just was really impressed by their kids. I just thought their kids were I just really liked how they were being educated, and it just seemed very attractive. I suppose when you've got little kids, it's kind of quite interesting seeing the teenagers that you almost want your kids to emulate or to kind of be like. And these kids were, I just liked kind of how they had been educated, really. So I suppose I explored it, and I mean, but nobody was doing it. I mean, it wasn't even, I had no idea whether it was going to work, whether we could do it, and it was just kind of one step at a time, really. But then decided that we'd do it. It's much broader. I think that was kind of like a big appeal of it. It's a much broader curriculum. It's more like a baccalaureate.
Right.
It's a broader curriculum. It's less specialized than GCSEs and A-levels. Also, exams may or may not be a feature of it, but you don't have to do exams. So there were just many
Right. A lot more
appeals about it.
flexibility then.
Much, much
Yeah.
more.
Mhm. And obviously you can do them wherever you live. We started. We both met each other when we lived in this um, setting in Austria. So, and there was a lot of Americans there, and it was the same thing. It just was like there's just so much more available in
Mm.
America, I guess. So many different programs, and it's just so much more established. Even back then, it's just much more established. So it just seemed like the obvious thing to do. There wasn't anything similar in the UK,
Mm.
and following what they were doing in schools, it just didn't make sense to me. I'm thinking, well, that's the whole a big part of why they're not in school is that
Yeah,
you can learn how you want to learn. So like, why do the school thing at home? You're missing
yeah.
half the bonus, you know.
We spoke to somebody this morning actually, and all that does, as you just said a little bit with that textbook, it just shifts the pressure onto being at home and getting through the
hmm
modules or the units or whatever it is. So without actually
hmm
stopping and letting the child lead with their interest and just
hmm
seeing where the day goes and where the learning goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so different. I mean, both of us, I was like 30 and, it's home, nobody was homeschooling then, it was
Mm.
so different, it was so weird, like you told people you're homeschooling and people like, they just didn't even know what to
Yeah.
ask you, it was so much more unusual. And
And then
it's
tell
just
them
not
you've
like
got
that.
7 kids as well,
And that
and
was a way,
then
yeah, yeah. But it's not like that now. I mean, it's become so much more common. It's
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah.
Think COVID also had a huge part in that because I feel like people
hmm
became a lot more understanding of it, obviously having to do it themselves.
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I think it's really increased. Yeah, we're actually both consultants for an American High School Diploma program as well, and so yeah, we work with a lot of families in the UK and help them sort of like through the high school diploma. Um, so yeah, it kind of like we've had like a lot more people doing it since COVID.
And I think too, we're just talking about the having kids with learning difficulties or whatever. It's the whole. I've got one child particularly that our fifth, sixth child. No, fifth. Sorry, can't count them all. Uh,
Fifth pregnancy.
yeah, yeah. It's the twins is confusing. Um, And I mean, I did, when we chose to do a high school diploma, I wasn't thinking about that at all. But looking back, or at the time, schooling him, thinking, I am so glad we picked to do this just because he didn't have to sit one exam.
Yeah.
He completed his high school diploma, he got the certificate. It was, he did it all. He had a lot of help. I did a lot with him, and we worked through it together. It wasn't like, I mean, depending on the way you homeschool, I know different people do things differently, but for us, we still covered what the other kids covered, but I worked with him a lot. And it wasn't like, oh, well, we were cheating because I helped him with that. It was like he learned
Yeah.
with me. We
You were
went
able
through
to
things,
adapt
and
it. Yeah.
yeah, and I think if you want that, I think the high school diploma, if you want that qualification and you really want to have something that's has a certificate at the end or whatever, it's definitely has that flexibility much more because it's based on hours is the thing rather than based on learning, taking an exam, and what you get in that exam is how well you did. It's just based on the hours that you're doing a certain subject.
Right.
So, they have to be high school level subjects, but some of them are really low. Like they can be quite a low level thing, lower than average. And if you've spent the hours on that subject and you've worked with certain material on that subject, you have that credit for that
Yeah.
course. And,
And
so
is that
it's
like
just,
building a portfolio type thing? Like assignments as opposed to doing
Yeah. So you
tests
do.
and exams?
So you do. Yeah. So you do. It usually is a mass of credits. Something about 25 credits. So it's a 4 year qualification. So over 4 years, you do 25
Right.
credits. And there's usually some required ones. So for America, because it's American, there's usually algebra 1 and geometry, and then there's probably two different sciences. But what that looks like is going to be vastly different for some kids. Some kids are going to be super academic and they're going to do very
Yeah.
advanced science, but some kids won't. And then there's like some English credits, but then there's a lot of flexibility. So some kids might do several languages, or they might do a lot more fine arts, or a lot more computer stuff, or so there's kind of certain required ones, but then
Yeah.
yeah,
They
a lot
can
more
choose.
flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That sounds a lot more flexible than here, actually, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. It's great.
Yeah. And can I ask why you started homeschooling, home educating in the first place?
I think I'm a Christian and we're both Christians, and so that was part of it. I think we wanted, that was an important sort of like part of it, our faith and our family's kind of faith, that was a big part of it. And then just what I said before, really just wasn't a big fan of schools. We just felt that I don't know, just the kind of peer pressure and just what was going on in schools, just on so many different levels, just wasn't that impressed with what they were studying, just wasn't really like a fan of the whole thing really. and just saw some of the kids that I'd never even thought of it, never even heard of it before someone talked to me about it. And so just seeing homeschooled kids and thinking, wow, these kids are really different, just really, they can talk to people, they're not like in this kind of peer group, they can talk to older people, they can talk to younger people. They were just different. I just really liked the homeschool kids that we met. And yeah, seemed like so we decided to do it for 6 months. I think no, it was a year. I think we decided to do it for a year. And then, just, that was it. It just kind of kept going.
Didn't look back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we decided to do it for 2 years because we had moved to Austria for 2 years. My husband was studying, and we'd heard about homeschooling. We're like, oh, it kind of don't really know. We didn't know anybody, and it was all sort of new. But we knew we were going to be in a foreign country for 2 years, and the kids were just little, and we thought we don't really want to put them in a German-speaking school. We're just there temporarily, and there were other families there that were doing it who we liked and we were impressed by. And there's a lot of big families too. It was kind of, I don't know, just, you had lots of people around you. You weren't isolated or anything. And so we just thought we'd give it a go. And I remember my sister-in-law, who lived in America at the time, when she said, oh, we were going to do it for a couple of years and then see what happens when we get back, kind of thing. And she was like, you're never going to go back, because she knew homeschoolers. She's like, once you've
Yeah.
tried it. And she was
Yeah.
right. We did end up
Yeah.
staying 12 years. But even if we'd come back, we wouldn't have,
You
we
would have
wouldn't
still
have, we would have
homeschooled.
carried on too, yeah. To me, a big thing is like it's the culture, is that the right word? Like when you've got a family that's starting to grow, and you want that kind of it's like a culture in your own family, and every family is so different, and that's okay. But like we have our own Cassidy family culture. Like there's a certain way we are with each other. We have certain gifts that are kind of, some have gifts maybe similar to mine that you've passed on, and my husband, and you just create this kind of family environment, I think, that we're known for. Yeah, they're Cassidys, they're like that because they're that kind of a family. I don't know. And you can't, it's easy to compare and say, well, that family, they do it like that, and we're not really like that, and we're kind of laid back about these things, and they're really good at that. Or, you can so easily compare yourselves to the way another family is homeschooling or just being, but typically specifically homeschooling. And I think it's just having that, like, getting to this point now where you look back and you realize, oh, this is our family. It's so unique, and we've been able to do that because we homeschool. If you have your kids in school, it's just so different. I mean, you still to a certain extent, but not to the extent you can when you homeschool, and that our kids are all really close.
I was
And
going to say you can build those strong bonds, can't you?
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
and I think what you were saying about seeing the teenagers and how they socialize with all different types of people. Again, they're getting that exposure that you
Hmm.
don't really get in a school, do you? You don't
mm,
Hmm.
have different experiences like that where
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
do need to
Schools.
adapt yourself and develop those social skills.
Yeah, I think schools are just quite strange places. They're just,
Mm.
you're in a class with people that you don't particularly like, and
Hmm.
some of them you won't like, and you're just with them all day long, like every
Doing
day,
something you don't
and
really
you're
want to do as well
no, and you're
sometimes.
pretty powerless, and you're having
Yeah,
to, wear uniforms, like sit in assemblies,
yeah.
walk on the particular side of the corridor, and there's just so many rules and so much stuff that goes on with school that I don't know, like it's just not really, you don't
it's
really
very
need it.
unnatural.
Yeah,
It's really
well, it's
unnatural.
just very
Yeah.
outdated, and I think that's
Hmm.
just why homeschooling is on the
Hmm.
increase, really.
Hmm.
Because
Mm,
Yeah.
it's I've done some research, and it's very much back in the day when they were preparing people to go and work in factories. So the bell going
Hmm.
off was again
Hmm.
training people to either clock off or clock on, and
Hmm.
just a lot of the things that happen are so outdated. Even somebody the other day
Hmm.
said, "Oh, well, we get the kids to line up in after playground." I don't know why we do that. And they were going to go back,
yeah.
and it was like a revelation. Well, actually, they don't
Yeah.
need to do that. They don't need to.
Yeah.
What's the biggest homeschooling myth that your lived experience has completely destroyed?
I guess the obvious thing is the socialization, that you just, I particularly, at the beginning, that I think people just think your kids are going to be so weird because they're going to be like locked up somewhere and educated and never going to talk to anybody. And it's just not just not like that. I'd say the socialization is just so different to school. You're not at school, you're spending a lot of time each week with a lot of people. A lot of them you won't like, and some of them you will, and some you won't like. So it's not like that. You obviously are spending a lot more time with your family. You tend not to go on holiday. When people go on holiday, you tend to travel more. I think most of our experience is that people that homeschool travel more because you can travel when it's cheaper. So you get to travel more. So you get to see people more. I guess you have more contact with other kind of extended members of your family because you're able to, and your kids can go and stay with other kids, like you've got older siblings or something, or you can just, I know our kids have stayed a lot more with other people, but maybe you go for a week or something to a friend's house and you can go and study together. So I think the socialization is just so different, it's such a different level and type of socialization to school. But yeah,
It's almost
so yeah,
not. It's not a forced
yeah, it's just kind
socialization,
of
whereas I think
organic,
at
isn't it?
school
It's
you're
just kind of
quite,
a
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It just kind of happens that, so you get jobs or, they just do so many different things. They have so many different opportunities.
Mm.
It's very different.
And a bit of
I think they
variety.
tend, yeah, I think they tend to be, I suppose that the one of the myths can be that you, like Helen says, you think, oh, homeschoolers, like surely they're going to be weird, or they're going to be those really awkward people that can't make normal conversation, or they're just sort of odd, Whereas um, I see now, with our families, and we know a lot of homeschool families now that we've seen their kids grow up and become adults, and now having homeschooling their own kids even.
Mm.
So just seeing all those, you can tell. I can tell now a mile off when I meet somebody, and I can tell whether they've been homeschooled or not. I found, I'd say it'd be interesting to do a survey, a study on it all. I think they're just way more confident, and they're way more capable, not scared, not like not weird, not in on themselves, or they travel and they do adventurous things, and they don't hesitate. I mean, all my kids have traveled at a young age. They've gone to America to visit. We've got family over there. They've done adventurous stuff by
Mm.
themselves or together that I feel like kids in school, or when I was at school, you're like, oh, you can't do that, or I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like it's the other way round. It's like the ones in school I mean, not, you can't generalize, of course. I'm sure there are some weird homeschool kids, but I'm sure there is a lot of families that have got kids in school that are awkward or lack confidence, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I just see them being much more well-rounded and more able and more capable.
I think
Of
there's a
course,
lot
they
of
can cook.
empowerment, isn't there,
Yeah,
in
things like
homeschooling?
cooking and cleaning and being able to travel and go
Yeah.
places and be independent and do stuff by yourself.
And so I guess really it's just ending on what advice you would give to parents. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what you do now, now you've homeschooled all your children, what you're now doing to help the community.
So
Yeah.
so I suppose at the end of so our kids were trying to get into British universities. And the high school diploma is sometimes not enough if you want to go to a good British university. So we started, because we were in an American system, we started looking at American exams to get you into British university. And we came across AP exams, which are kind of like the win-win because they take 1 year to do. They're equivalent to British A-Levels, but they only take 1 year to do. So it's like, well, why wouldn't you do that if you are academic
Yeah.
and you do want to go to a university? So we started offering, well, I offered a few of these courses. I was teaching, and so I offered a few of these. And then our kind of business grew. So Jenny and I started a business. We call it Dumb Ox Learning. And we offer these AP exams, so these A-level equivalents. And even though we don't do them, I teach them. And I know a lot of people do want them. So we do actually teach GCSEs as well. So I'm teaching maths all morning uh, because a lot of people do, still want exams and still, want to do GCSE exams. So we have a company that we offer GCSEs and we offer these AP exams, and we have yeah, it's really growing, and we have a lot of parents that want to kind of do our courses. So it's been I suppose we have experience and we have knowledge, and we really want to do a good job and provide these courses if parents want to do this route. So.
Yeah, brilliant. And sorry, what's the difference between AP and GCSE?
So GCSE is the 16, sort of the one that you do at 16, and AP is the one that you would usually do like an A level at 18. So it's a kind
Right.
of the GCSE isn't enough to get you into university. But so like the ones that in school people do, 7 or 8 or whatever of GCSEs, and then you would usually do 3 A-levels. But instead of doing 3 A-levels, which takes you 2 years, you could just do 3 APs, which only takes you a year. So that's what we're offering, and that's what we're like. Come and do these. They make sense. They're just kind of,
And is there a
so I guess
set
it's more
criteria?
alternatives.
Is there a set
I mean,
criteria for those?
it's an exam. I mean, it's an exam. It's a public exam. So but
No, sorry. To start it, I mean, do you have to have a
Oh,
certain?
yes. I mean, well, it depends on the subject, really. So, I mean, obviously, if you're doing AP biology, it's like an A-level biology equivalent. So you do have to have done some biology beforehand. Or if you're
Right.
doing AP maths, then you've got to have done some maths beforehand. Yeah, so you've got to have done similar to a GCSE. You've got to be at that kind of same sort of level. But again, it's just more, what we're talking about, really, just more alternatives, more different ways to do something. You don't have to do it the same way. There are different ways to do things. So yeah, that's what we do.
And I think for kids that maybe have learning difficulties, but maybe not to the extent that they would be able to go to university here, say, or anywhere for that matter. It's just an easier route to get the qualifications you would need to get accepted. As Helen says, just being a 1 year, it's only one exam. They're similar level to A-level of work, but just because you can do it from home so much easier. With the Dumox learning platform, we have a 1 hour a week live Zoom, and then the teacher sets up the work for you to do over the week. You get a piece of work marked, that kind of thing, and just helps you get ready for that one exam. So it's just more doable for kids that want to go to university or want to have some kind of qualification like that, but that you can still be doing the homeschool stuff that you want to do the way you want to learn, or that rather than, there are homeschoolers that do A-levels from home, but it sounds to me like they're all consuming and you're not going to do much else apart from getting ready for those A-levels. Whereas this just means you've got more flexibility to do the things you want to do, but still, be able to get those qualifications if that's what helps you get to somewhere you want to go, kind of thing.
Okay, great. And there's more information of that on your website. So if we put the link.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. It's just dumoxlearning.com.
As you say, it's always good to have more flexibility.
Sure. And there's an opportunity to talk to us, so there's an opportunity, there's a button on the website. You can just have a one-to-one conversation with us, because every family's different, every person's different, so sometimes people just want to chat about their children and situation.
Every once in a while we do online Zooms like this with a presentation explaining all those details about the high school diploma, how, because it is a little bit complicated to get your head around when you haven't heard it before, how the credits work and all those kind of things. We've got one coming up on the 13th of April in the evening.
Okay.
And we have those, if anybody wants to be on our mailing list to be notified about any of those things, you can do that through the website.
Brilliant.
We're always happy to communicate with people that want to know more about those kind of things, because there's not many people who have. Helen particularly has an awful lot of knowledge with all her teaching and everything, and she's great at sharing it with others and helping those families coming behind us, learning from all the things we figured out.
I think that's just such a big thing, just being able to help, other families. And I think, I don't know, I had a couple of calls last week, I think you could just speak to someone very quickly and say, we've both acquired a lot of information, we just had a lot of experience, and that, we just know a lot about what we know about. So, just this kind of, people want to do this high school diploma or AP route, or, GCSEs. And, I just kind of think we know quite a lot about it. And, it's taken a long time, so we're just really happy and really want to be able to kind of help other families, with that.
Yeah, well, and having a different alternative, as you say, because it doesn't have to be GCSEs or,
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was lovely to chat to both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.